Hi everyone, welcome to this first class of CA Final Audit. This subject, technically called Advanced Auditing, Assurance and Professional Ethics, this carries 100 marks and it is paper 3 and part of your group 1. Since you have already studied this paper in intermediate, that is the CA Inter, it shouldn't be too complicated for you to clear this paper. However, the expectation, though lot of concepts are repetitive in nature except professional ethics and certain other advanced concepts, majority of the concepts, almost I can say 80% of the concepts are about the ones which you have already covered it in intermediate. Nevertheless, the expectation of those chapters is here and those concepts over here is slightly different. That is what we will get into it. Now, being the first class, I just want to give you an overview of what are the number of chapters and how do we need to prepare for these exams and how are we going to handle and what is our methodology of this paper. These are the aspects, some of the aspects that we are going to cover in this particular introduction class. In this, since it is exam based, the knowledge that you are seeking is to test your capabilities in the exam. Let's go with what is the expected weightage of these chapters and the overall number of chapters. If you look at this material, what you are seeing now is the one which is issued by ICAI on the standard weightage of the chapter wise. Like, since you are all familiar, you would have practiced this in Inter as well, the same one. So, if you look at the total number of chapters, see the total number of chapters are 19, and from the weightage perspective, it is divided into 5 sections and each section carries a different weightage. The first section, which is very lengthy, is covering significant number of chapters. That is 11 chapters are put it in section 1 and which carries almost 50% of your marks, like 45 to 55. And since scrolling through this and getting an overview is difficult, the same one I have summarized into a chart, and let's analyze this ABC analysis from the charts. The only difference between what you have seen it in the ICI material and what the sections you are seeing here, our consideration of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is on the weightage perspective. So now getting straight onto this, there are 5 sections and section 1, which is top priority. So this is the one I am referring, and which is a top priority. This covers almost like 50% of your marks, and what are included in this, it is basically the auditing standards, be it SAS, SREs and SAEs and all this. So basically it covers all your standards, 50% of it. And this next priority goes for specialized audits and investigations. In this, you broadly cover group audits, audit of banks, and partly what you have covered in intermediate and partly certain advanced concepts. And NBFCs, you have not covered this in intermediate, you would be covering here. And then audit of PSUs, that you have already covered at your inter level, but here we would be looking at a few other extended topics. And then internal audit, due diligence, and investigation and forensic audit. These chapters would get you close to 20 marks, 17 to 24, even if you take on an average 20 marks. So covering 1 and 2, there here it is 50 and here it is 20. So here itself you would be scoring 70% of the marks between this 1 and 2. The third priority goes for your professional ethics. This is the most important piece of your audit paper. This is something you would be learning afresh at your final level, whereas in 1 and 2, 70 to 80% of the syllabus is what you have already covered it in intermediate, but there you covered it from the standard per se perspective, but here you would be looking at the application of this standards, that is whatever the knowledge you have gained, theoretical knowledge you have gained, how do we apply in terms of a realistic scenario. So mostly the same standards of find it series and all that, here you would be covering it mostly through the case scenarios perspective. I will get into the details little later after covering this. Then comes your section 4. which is, I would categorize it both 4 and 5 as a little low priority ones. The number of chapters are more, and both the average weightage of all this comes to 10%. But these are the upcoming topics like digital auditing and then emerging areas like SDGs and all this. These are, as of now, these are, I mean, collectively the weightage is around 10%. But my own take on the how it is going to be in future, the weightage for these topics is going to be bigger. So that we will discuss it as and when the weightage is increased, we will also try to increase it. But as of now, the weightage of all these chapters collectively is roughly around 10% maximum. That is what we can talk about it. So to summarize, section 1, nothing but your auditing standards, that itself will get you 50 marks, and then the specialized audits, and then professional ethics 1, 2 and 3. This itself you will get 50 plus 20 plus 20 on a lower side. So 90% of the marks are getting covered in this 1, 2, 3. Now if you ask me, covering section 3 is more easy, more lively, and since you would be talking about do's and don'ts for chartered accountants both in practice and service, you will find it a little interesting to read. So that is more easy to read it, though it is a bit lengthy, but you will find it interesting to read and logical to read. So that is not going to be difficult. And section 2 basically covers little dry topics, and but you do have some saviors like group audits and all this where you can take little leverage. So the one and the most important one which you need to focus is the section 1. Now in section 1, it's all about the standards: 200 series, 300 series, 500 series, 700 series, etc. And apart from intermediate, whatever the standards you have learned over there, at final you would be learning the 800 series standards. So and like your specialized areas that you are going to learn, and then related services which was not part of your intermediate you would be learning, and then review engagements. So you never learnt it at inter, now that we are going to cover it. But even on those what you have covered, like take for example audit evidence, the expectation of this at final level is slightly different. Now, instead of going on talking, I will just take an example of this audit evidence, the chapter. What you are seeing now is ICI material, and this is going to be our base for all our material. But since the material, because since it is made on a self-learning mode, you may find it bit lengthy. That is what we will try to learn it, and we will try to modify it. We will try to put it in a student friendly language. We will see that. I'll share that as well with you on how my material is going to be. Now, this audit evidence, which is chapter 5, this is an indicative just to give you a feel of what we are going to learn, how we are going to learn, and what will be given to you as a part of the syllabus. Now, in this audit evidence, like you can see it on the screen, these are the 6 standards that we are going to cover. So entire 500 series: 500, 501, 505, 510, 530 and 550. So these are the standards that we will be covering in this chapter. Now if I take you through, let's say SA 500 audit evidence, this is the same one. The title of the chapter is also same, like audit evidence, which you have studied in intermediate. But there the only difference is there it was chapter 4 and here it is chapter 5. But if you look at here, say SA 500, this is the chart he has given and nothing else. And after this chart, that is, it is an executive summary. And after the chart, he gets into direct SF501. And then again, there are certain test your understanding, some practical application of this. And then again, he moves on to another standard, 505. And is he giving any details over here? Nothing. An overview in the form of a chart. And then you are expected to answer all of it. So I mean, this is how it is. All the standards, the way how it is covered in the final material is not covering one more time. There is no repetition. Only the number, I mean, SFI30, if you talk about it, you may get a feel that yes, I have learned it in INTA. Now it's a repetition. No, there is no repetition. And this is what he has given. And you know that at intermediate level, SFI30 really get into the depth of it. Like, what do you mean by sampling? What are the types of sampling methods and various stuff? Now, and what an auditor should take care while selecting the samples. And if there are deviations found, how are we going to deal with the deviations? Multiple things. How do we project this samples to the overall population? So a whole lot of concepts. It's a depth concept that we study over there, and stratification, many topics. But here nothing. So it is just summarized into one small chart, and based on that, you are expected to gain knowledge of it, even on SFI 50. And that's it. So once this is over, then your routine questioning and all starts. Now, you look at this itself, this MCQ itself. When he has given this summaries, like SA500 in a simple chart form, is that really sufficient for your exams? The answer is big no, it will not be sufficient. Like the question one itself is very evident. Here he talks about management expert. And you know that experts are of two types, auditor expert, management expert, which you have studied it. Now he is asking little slightly conceptual based questions over here. But if you go back to SA500, was there any reference? I mean, in this SA500, in this topic, there is no reference. He has not touched anything on this management expert, but no detailed discussion. And though he is touching it in the third column of it, but no detailed discussion. But the questions are being asked. So, therefore, what I suggest we do is, this is the material which will be given to you once we start our classes, and say SA500. Instead of learning it in a chat form, let us try to learn it in a more detail. I will cover this chapter in a detailed mode, but the intention of showing that to you now is, I want you to get a feel, how are we going to deal this, so that you will get an idea as to the way how we are covering, is it sufficient enough for you to cover the exams, and what will be taught to you. And therefore, by listening to this, you can gauge yourself whether by listening to these classes, will you be able to tackle your paper, the complicated paper of this auditing. With that intention, I'm just sharing all these base concepts. And when we start in our next class, we will start off with a proper chapter. Now, say, coming back to it, what are we going to discuss in the class? Say, suppose if I'm going to start with this, then I will take you through what are the standards that are covered over here, and then say SA500. Now, first we learn in a proper format. Like, say, what do you mean by audit evidence? What are the sources of audit evidence? And while discussing this, I also want to take you and connect you to certain important concepts that you would have already learnt it at intermediate, but are not explicitly covered in the final syllabus. Nevertheless, there are questions which are asked against these concepts. So, therefore, we will get into little in-depth details, like say for expert. Now, he's just asking questions. Now, how a management expert, how do you rely on management expert, and what an auditor should take as a precaution and all that. So, therefore, when we start this chapter, I will get into the details. But since you're all familiar with this concept, this is how we are going to talk about who is an expert, and what is the difference between management expert and auditor's expert. Then what auditor should take the precaution, how he should get satisfied, particularly while using the work of a management expert. So we would be getting into the concepts that we would have studied at intermediate level, but are not explicitly remind you. But these are not part of your final material, but questions are being asked. That is the, like I have shown you that time. This is a question. He is asking questions, and even if you look at it, like say, even in the next chapter, management instructions in SA 501, we'll get into the details, but he is asking very conceptual questions. So therefore, my request to you is, have patience. You may look like what is given in the material is a shorter one, and what we are going to discuss is pretty much more than what is given in the material. But trust me, I'm not going to dump you whatever is not required for your exams. It is not about exhibition of our knowledge. That is not the intention of it. The whole intention is to see that the whatever is the topics on which the questions are covered, then it becomes my duty to take you through those concepts even if it is not covered in the ICI material. So keeping that point in mind, whatever are the concepts that are not covered apparently in the study material, but still questions are being asked in the examination. So those concepts, I would be requesting you to take a short note of it, either in the form of you take pics or you write down, whatever is the way how you are comfortable. Each student will draw comfort in different mode. I respect that. So whichever the mode you are comfortable, go ahead with that. But do make a notes of it, without which your preparation would become incomplete. Then, what are we going to do after that? Once we complete our syllabus, then through the app, like RS Vidyalaya, this is our app, and I'll have to just slightly change the orientation. Now, through this app, I'm going to provide you access to it. Who are buying this course, who are subscribing to this course, I will also give them access to this test series, whereby if I look at the contents, now, say, for example, chapter 1. Now, here I'm going to give you LMR, that is last minute revision for your connectivity. Just give me a sec. Yeah. So, you would be given LMRs, and probably there are technical issues with this. Because this PDFs, the app is having its own restrictions. So that's why I was not able to demonstrate how this LMS, but you will be given LMS, and there are MCQ tests which are given against this chapter. So this technically I'm not able to, because of certain settings and all, I'm not able to demonstrate, but I do make sure that you will be given access to it and you do it. So you do have MCQ tests in this, which are given for practice. And the way how I have given the controls is I made it unlimited number of times. So there is no restriction on the views of it. So you can keep on practicing these MCQs, and these MCQs will give you the conceptual clarity. That is what is required to face these exams at the final level. And apart from these MCQs and LMRs, you do have case scenarios which are covered separately over here. And these case scenarios typical to ICI ones, we would be practicing. And as a final leg, you will be given this test papers, say, and access to the test papers. It is up to you, like you want to really write and test yourself. But from our side, I have given an access whereby you can see the test. Probably because of the display settings they have gone for, casting. Whenever I'm trying to cast to another one, it will not be allowed. That's you understand the importance of those restrictions, and hope you are with me. But once you download the app, you would be able to see seamless. Only when I am casting, because of the data privacy related settings, it will not allow me to cast to any other systems, which is logical and understandable. That's why I'm not able to demonstrate here. But otherwise, you would just kindly download the app, and the app is like what you can see it on the left hand corner, the RS Vidyalaya. That's a website, and that is the app which is available on the Google Play Store. You can download it, and trust me, that's a safe app. You will not have any issues for any of your other privacy related issues and all that. It's a safe app. It's best just an educational app with a little controls over there, not much of too much of into the concepts. And the app is basically a self-driven and user-friendly one. You can, by looking at it, it will take you through the format. But at any point of time, you have any challenge in the navigating through the app and all that, you can always reach out to us. There are contact numbers given in the website that you can see, rsvidyalaya.com. Just type in Google, you will get the website. Now, coming back to it, say the descriptive test. You are given certain tests. It is up to you. You want to write, and there is a scope, like you want to improvise your presentation or anything of that sort. We are there to help you out. You write the test. There is a way how you, in the app you can scan your papers and submit it, and that will come to me, and I will value it personally. It's not that I will outsource to someone else, and I will validate it, and I will get back to you with whatever the value addition that I can add to it, and whichever the way I, through the suggestions, I can help you out, I will do that. Say for example, I have given multiple tests for you to practice with different questions. Now, you don't have patience to write. I do understand it's not a question of laziness. At this level of final, you all are occupied with other navigations as well. Like some of you must be doing articles, some of you must be working. I do respect that. Say you may not be able to sit and write and all that, and there is no need as well. Say once in a while you need to get it evaluated, but we are there. Say one student want to write all the tests and you want all that tests to be evaluated, we are with you. But even considering your busy schedule, say you don't want to really sit and write, but you still want to see the questions, then you can see the questions, you can come up with your own thought process, and I have also given the solutions to each of these papers. So however it is, like test 1 there, and test 1, test 2, test 3, and all the questions are having all the proper answers to it. And even in the answers, let me see whether I can, it support me to cast. No, it will not. So the settings will not allow me to cast. Otherwise, it is structured in a proper mode. It is constructed in a student friendly mode. You can use them. And what is the sanctity of this test papers for your confidence? These test papers, whatever the questions that are asked here, these are not imaginary ones. These are the questions that are asked in your previous year exams, that are there in your RTPs, and that are there in mock test papers, and that are there in study material. So, in a sense, if you are going to cover all 3 test papers, even from a reading, it's as good as you are reading a question bank. So, to sum it up, you are discussing the classes, you are listening to the concepts, and then you are also given access to this question bank mode. So, and including MCQs and the case scenarios and all 3 types. And to my knowledge, whatever I had in my mind, like which will help you to clear this paper, I've included. But I'm open to any suggestions. As a student, if at all you feel that there is any point that you are looking at it and missing in this piece and all that, please feel free. There is a, once you download the app, there is a way how you can connect to us. Drop in an email, and otherwise just log into the website. There are address and all are given. Log into it, and we are there to be with you. So whole intent is, I want to be with you in your journey to see that you all will become successful and do score good in our paper. And instead of trying to look at practical papers to manage this paper with 40 plays and all that, let's target the other way around. Let's learn the subject conceptually, and then see that this subject is going to help the other subjects. So we will target 60 plus on this. You should get exemption and in the first attempt. So that's my assurance to you, provided you are with me in providing this. I mean, in just following what we need to follow. Now, coming back to it, one last thing I will just show it to you. Why is it important to listen to this? Now, I will take you back to ICAI 1, the standards. Like, say, I will come to the same chapter which I was talking about. Look at this audit evidence. Now, if you see here, these are all ICAI ones. These are not anybody's personal this one. Now, these standards, it is being clearly said that these are being covered in depth at intermediate level. So, what is being tested here is the application part of the essays. So, there are case studies here, and he is not going to take you through again one more time. But as a student, how many of you really remember what you have studied at inter level? It's quite not possible. You may not be able to remember all. It's almost, I would say, it is next to impossible. So if somebody is able to remember, hats off to them. But not really, not all the concepts. I'm not trying to say that you would have forgotten everything, but not to the minute level. Even SA500 itself, it was a big topic at intermediate level. Here, one chat, matter is closed. So there, but questions are being asked. So that is where I request your patience in connecting you back to those concepts which you have already studied at INTA but are still required to be revised here. Whether it's part of your material or not, but it is definitely part of your question papers. So therefore, it is important for us to listen. So with this, whenever we start our classes, first target, keeping this ABC analysis in mind, our target first would be to cover the standards. So in our next class, we will meet up again, and we will be starting with having made you to introduce to this audit evidence. Let's start. You can start with any series because these are all independent. You can start with 200, you can start with 300, you can start with 700, or you can directly discuss this 800 series. But my take on this is, among all the series, 500 series are slightly logical, and 500 series are, from a student perspective, I'm saying, no disrespect to any other standards, you would find little more comfort in 500 series. So let's start with this audit evidence. So our first chapter, detailed chapter that we would be discussing is our audit evidence. So we will come back and we will meet again. So since I've been covering many things, as a summary, apart from the weightage, this is going to be the almost, I can say, the basis for our classes. This is the notes which I've compiled, and I would be sharing this notes with you where it is structured in a proper mode. Otherwise, you have seen it, ICI material, they have just given the flow charts. You can go through that. It's not that there is anything wrong in that, but this is more in detail, and which will give you. Apart from this notes, I will also be requesting you to take this additional flow charts. And this is, again, I never wanted to burden you with what is not required for the exam. Whatever the topic, every piece of the topic that we are going to cover is relevant for your exams. And to connect with you, we will also be discussing the MCQs, the relevant MCQs, and the relevant questions that are being asked in the exam in the form of this. We will discuss the solution rather than simply just leaving it to you. I thought I did my job, now it is up to you. No, I am going to hold your hand even in making you familiar with the questions. We will discuss, and then comes the presentation. In one of these days, we will also spend some time on what is the expected level of presentation for this paper to score good. So with all this, I hope you got an overview on what is the weightage that you need to focus, and what are the number of chapters that you have, and how are we going to cover the syllabus, and how is the practice mode for you to practice and become successful in it. So with this, I will end my note, and let's begin our first chapter in our next class. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Bye bye. Thank you. Thank you all.